How can I be productive while I'm resting? Ooh, this is a fascinating question. How can I be productive when I'm resting? We run our own businesses. Again, I have little businesses. Chances are, if you're watching the show, you have a side hustle or solopreneurship. You might have a couple. I know some of y'all watching right now have like four. I'm like, ooh, four and little kids? Man, let me see how I can help you. Jeez. So the amount of juggling that you guys do is admirable. The thing is that if you're wearing all the hats, I wish I had my hat prop, my hat's up there, but if you're wearing all the hats, all the things, then it's like, how exactly am I going to take a half an hour walk to the grocery store? There's an invoice that might come in. There might be someone that wants a copy of my book. How am I supposed to get it out? Oh, the show is going to happen at Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I can't take a break. I got to keep going and produce the show. So I think it's really important to address that part of it. Say the quiet part out loud. Is that for the people that I support as a business coach, the side hustlers, the solopreneurs, the non-traditional entrepreneurs, so many of us are actually the CEO, the CFO, the CEO, the CMO, like pick a C and an O and throw a letter in there. We're probably representing that. If we do have that support, we might have limited employees, we might have consultants, we might even have virtual assistant. But pretty much we're it. I think there's some smart ways that we can actually find to keep our business going, not become insolvent or go bankrupt or have our business fall apart, and still continue to rest. The first thing is to actually be strategic about when you're taking a rest, when you're taking a break. My kids are actually graduating from school, not the big school, but graduating their current grade over the upcoming days. My partner knows that. I know that. The rest of the family knows that. No, you guys know that. So everything, going back to like January, February, I'm not exaggerating, has been designed so that they're going to be at home for this period of time. They're going to be at summer camp for this period of time. This relative is going to be visiting at this period of time. They're going to be visiting this relative. Like all that is mapped out. So I already know from a personal standpoint, those pockets when I'll be able to get a little bit of a break, even with the kids at home, even with my partner away or here, even with relatives in town, or them being like, I already got it designed. So there's certain things that I'm actually starting to go deeper into actually this week, as far as how I'm going to design this program during the summer, because I'm not going to be around every single Wednesday. If you think about it, you got little kids in summertime, you're not always going to be around. You don't always want to be around, to be frank. And so if you're more strategic about it, then you have to be able to plan for it. It's not as complex as, say, planning a vacation where you're gone for a week. I'm not saying that. I mean, literally just saying, I'll give my example. All right, I have a show every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I know that's a period of time where my kids are probably going to want a snack because we had lunch earlier. And they're probably going to want to be outside. But it's really hot here in Las Vegas. So maybe we go somewhere like a water park or, go to the neighbor who has a pool, whatever. Okay, so then maybe this week I'll have a rerun, or I won't do a show, or I'll do a bonus show the following week to make up for it. Like, I'm already thinking on those levels, as you should be. And so the more strategic we can be with how we're going to rest, how we're going to structure our lives, and how our businesses are going to fit into that, as well as our, personal stuff, then the further out we can do that, the more we can actually build rest in. Like, I'm positive I'm going to get rest this summer. Like, I don't, like, see little backs in their eyes. I'm tired. Like, I love y'all, but it's like, I also need a break. But I know that my break is coming. I know I'm going to get rest. And it's already being developed. That in itself calms me down. Now, I'm a planning guy. It might not matter as much to you. But even if you're not a platter, hopefully you're not a platter. If you're not a planner, I would implore you to go ahead and think about, let me plan out my rest just a little bit. Let me have maybe this person take over. Maybe I can go ahead and do a little bit of extra work here so that I can be gone for this next day. Think about it more from a strategic standpoint versus just, I'm going to go ahead and, push until I can't push anymore. And hopefully I'll get a break. We live days, months, years. I got some people that care about that have lived decades like that. Rest in peace, because some of them passed away. But they lived decades like that. Like, I'm going to go ahead and I'll figure out the break later. I'm just going to keep pushing. And then you keep moving, moving the mountain, moving the mountaintop, moving the flagpole until there's no more flagpole left. There's no more mountaintop. I'm not saying it has to be some dramatic exit for you. What I'm saying is that we can keep pushing our rest until we do burn out, or we end up hating the stuff that we do, even though it's something that we traditionally love, or we end up running out of time. Whatever time means to you, we end up running out of time. The key thing is to figure out that strategy as soon as possible and put in that flagpole and say, I'm going to take a break during this period of time. I'm going to slow down during this period of time. Even if it's just 15 minutes, even if it's just an hour of myself sitting on the porch, having a glass of lemonade, eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That sounds really good right now, by the way. Even if it's just that, you say, I'm going to do that this day. I'm going to take a little lunch break from my job. I'm going to come out of the office. I'm going to sit, on the sidewalk, and I'm just going to reflect for 5 minutes. There's ways that we can put that into there and build it in, but it requires a little bit of strategy. Going back to the previous question, it requires a little bit of strategy and for us to recognize the ways that we can actually rest within the context of our lives right now. The better thing too, not just doing the strategy, but also with being productive while we're resting, is that we actually scientifically proven that we actually are more productive after we rest. Again, I took a nap earlier today. I know I would not be functioning. Believe it or not, this is me high level functioning. But if I would not be functioning at this level without that nap, without that break. Again, things have been super busy over here on all fronts, personal, professional, everything, all the things. Nothing I can complain about, but it's been busy. So my body and my mind and my soul is like, no, you need to sit down. Like literally, I heard my mind say that. It's like, yeah, after you send out this project, go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. Us being able to listen to that voice, I think, is important, not only from a health standpoint and on all the reasons I talk about, but also because we're actually able to be more productive. And so if we really care about our business, how we're showing up for our customers, how we're serving people, how we're making money, nothing wrong with making money, we can add that in there. How we're feeling about it, and we're saying we want to be our best selves, then grinding it out is not going to give you your best self. It's going to get you eventually a hollow shell of yourself. There's moments that are crunch time. There's moments where you have to hustle. Again, I'm in that period of time right now, so I can speak from experience. My whole point is that if you keep pushing things, just like a car, eventually it's going to break. And then you won't be showing up for anybody, including yourself. And so the question is, if you're really about that life, showing up the best, doing 110% on all those things, you can't do 110% if you never take a break. You literally can't. Again, I've done the research. I've read the books that have done the research. I've interviewed people that have done the research. I've done books on the research. That's why my first bestseller was called The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. Like, we need to find a way to pace ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. One of the things that I love talking to my coaching clients about and asking them is, whatever you're doing right now, is it sustainable for the next year? I usually say 5 years. Let's just say the next year. So if you're getting 3 hours sleep, that means you're doing 21-hour work days or whatever crazy stuff you might be doing. And you're doing that every day, and you're not eating right, you're not getting fresh air outside, you're not spending time with people that you care about, not building relationships. How's that going to look 365 days from now? Probably not that good. No judgment if those are things that you are struggling with. My own point is that you can course correct in minor ways. And if you really say, my business is my life, I care about my business, all I do is dream about my business. I've been in those situations. If you're going to keep showing up for your business over time, again, I'm not a kid. And so my businesses that I run right now have been around for, in some cases, decades. There's no how that I'd be able to have a sustainable business, multiple sustainable businesses, have my 2 little kids, have this, what I consider a beautiful life, and be able to do all that and never rest. So if you're worried about taking a break and that your business is going to fall apart, find ways to strategize so you can offload some of that, even scale back in some cases, or maybe you find other hustles that can pay you more income so that you don't have to make income just from this particular business. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be there to lead the business. And if you're saying this business is your heart or the main thing that you're into, then how can you do that to your business? Right? How can you do that? The math isn't mathing. If this business is the most important thing, and you know if you don't rest, you're going to burn yourself out and the business is going to fall apart, then why wouldn't you rest? That's the riddle of the day. Riddle me that, right? Good food for thought. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it, but that's why I do the work that I do. One great book that talks about this, in fact, it might be the best book that talks about what I was just talking about, is Ryan Holiday's Stillness is the Key. Man, he does more books than I do. Like he's got a book coming out every year. I think he just had a book that came out about doing good. Sounds really good, and I love seeing his videos and hearing his work. This one is a classic, and I all the things that I'm talking about right now, you can see why I rock with it. The main argument is that if we're going to make an impact on the world, if we're going to be strategic and thoughtful, if we're going to run our businesses, do our entrepreneurship, even show up as spouses, as parents, as children, if our parents are still around, as aunts and uncles, nieces, nephews, et cetera, however we're showing up in the world, contributing, it requires slowing down enough to think about our actions and for our emotions, or as they say, our soul to finally catch up with us. That is required. It's required. I talked about this recently on the shadow episode that I referred to earlier, where we could be so busy running away from whatever we don't want to deal with that we end up leaving all these gems behind and not realizing we're walking into the trap of burnout, the trap of stress, the trap of health problems and issues, the trap of loneliness because we're not developing a relationship. There's all kinds of traps along the way. Not trying to scare you. Just my whole point is that without us slowing down, then we're not going to make it. Again, scientifically proven. We're not built like that. We're not superheroes. We're not built like that. And often the reason why we're not being still is because of something we don't want to deal with back here. That's often how it works. For better or for worse, it just is what it is. Again, as they say, I don't make the rules. It's just, this is kind of the way that we're designed. If you're familiar with Ryan's work, he talks about Stoic philosophy a lot and has been basically become a historian on it. Forget being an author, historian about it, about these different philosophies from Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. If you're familiar with his work, then these names will ring a bell. I've mentioned them a few times too on the channel, particularly with my favorite book of his, The Daily Stoic. He gets much deeper into this, mostly about the ability to be still. Even from a strategic standpoint, because we're talking about businesses. How many times have you taken a shower? Have you played with little kids like your niece or nephew, or even your own kids or whatever, just to kind of mind off of things? Have you, last time you did a cross-country trip or drove to the beach or whatever outside stuff you might have? I love doing long walks in Midtown Manhattan. So walking, actually further than that, but walking from Midtown Manhattan all the way to downtown and back. Like, I love doing that. I actually miss New York. You're doing that, whatever that equivalent is for you. And suddenly these strategic pieces start coming together. And you're like, oh, that's how I should launch that product. That person I'm having a conflict with, my business partner or whatever, this is what I'm going to say to them. Yeah, we need to have that conversation. This, that, and the third. Those things only happen when we're not worried about them. And unfortunately, if we're always in the active mode, if we're not being still, if we're not putting our focus somewhere else just for a moment, we don't get a chance to put those pieces together. emotionally, physically, mentally. We just don't. Again, that's not how the human brain works. He talks about that a little bit too, but that's not how the human brain works. This book is a great start to think about that, to think that actually stopping could make your business better. Again, food for thought. Brene Brown, How to Slow Down Without Losing Your Business. Shout out to Brene Brown. As you know, I love your work. This came out about a year and a half ago. And this matters because I think I shared in the actual video. This is a Bring Your Worth episode, obviously. And she went on LinkedIn and she said, hey, I'll be gone for the next 3-4 months, I think, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm done right now. And she had 3 podcasts. She had at least 2 podcasts. I couldn't even keep up with all the podcasts she was doing. And I'm a fan. I was like, I can't listen to all this. She was doing that much work. And she had a book come out. And she had a Netflix special that came out a few months before that about Atlas of the Heart, which was her book that came out at the time, again, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And she said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead. And she was like, these are the, and I think she broke it down. She's like, these are the things that are going to happen, or this is how I'm going to handle it, whatever. And here it is. When it comes to emotional intelligence, she's the top 3 most known person in the English speaking world. I'm positive. Again, this is some of the stuff that I study, so I know where she ranks. She's top 3. It's her, Adam Grant. You know what I'm saying? I could date him. Shout out to Adam. But you know what I mean? Simon Sinek might be on that list, depending, but he's more workplace versus just emotional intelligence. Again, so I know what I say. So for a top 3 in the English speaking world to say, yeah, I'm going to go off grid for the next 3-4 months. And she has kids too. So she's like, I'm going to go off grid for a little while. And then to break down and model that and say, this is how I'm going to go off grid. This is what it means. Yeah, there's not going to be a podcast for the next 3 to 4 months. I already talked to the advertisers. She has big sponsors. It's like, right? She's got big sponsors, like brand name sponsors. Yeah, I already talked to them. Yeah, but I need to do this. And then I think it was in the fall, instead of being more like 6 months, she came back. She's like, hey, I'm back. Here's a new episode of, I forget the name of her thing. Is it Unlocking Us? I think it's Unlocking Us. It's like, Unlocking Us. Here's a new episode. And it's featuring the former Surgeon General of the United States. He's talking about loneliness. Shout out to that guy. And it's just like, whoa, okay. But she was able to come back, roaring back. And she's been fine ever since, as far as I can tell. I was like, oh, okay, she's back on her grind. Not in a bad way. Back on her grind, as we say nowadays. And it's like, oh, she's modeling that. So for someone who talks about burnout and emotional intelligence, she's actually modeling behavior. That's why I had to do an episode about it. Again, it was probably about a year and a half ago. Be sure and check it out. It's only 20 minutes long, not that long. But I break down her philosophy, why it matters, and go a little bit deeper into some of the stuff that we're talking about today. All right, so we are talking about how to calm down. How are we going to calm down? How are we supposed to do that? And it doesn't mean that we have to stop completely. It just means finding spaces, or I'll call them breaks, or as I said in our newsletter this morning, the pause, capital T, capital P. Finding a place for the pause within what we're doing. And if you have a hectic life like me and so forth, it can be hard, but there's ways to do it. I'm an entrepreneurial business coach, helping side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. You can watch the show every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Get through my mouth today. You subscribe for free. We're almost at episode 400. Man, I love celebrating with y'all. We're about to hit 400. Thank you for riding with me. You want to subscribe for free and check out the previous 378 episodes. Be my guest. It's all available for you. All right, the last question. If you have more questions, feel free to throw them into the chat.